It's asking for a verification code. Right. I want to integrate with this box.com. From Salesforce, I want to move some of the files to box.com. From Salesforce, I want to move some of the files to box.com. Now, if I want to integrate Salesforce with box.com, first, always we need to go for what? Creating a connected app. Now, who is the service provider? Your box.com is the service provider. Who is the client? Salesforce is the client. So, where should I create a connected app? Connected app should be created in the box.com, because unless I create a connected app, I don't get a client ID. So, create a app. Next, we have app token or OAuth 2.0 that is. I have taken OAuth 2.0 that is. So we got here client ID, client secret, then what we have? Read ID. Is a page of the Salesforce to which your code has to come. First time we make request, so what happened? First time when I send a request, it is going to send a code. To which page the code has to come? Box response page. Done. Done. Let's see the changes. Client ID, client secret, and username password. Right. Now go back to the documents because you should know what is the endpoint URL, what are the parameters we have to pass. Go through the documentation of box.com and see how to integrate. Now we're going with OAuth. Let's go with the OAuth. So first they told OAuth endpoint, authorize handle my access. This is to send a request. First, if you want to authorize, what you are getting here? Authorize. This is the endpoint URL. What are the parameters they are asking you to pass? Response type equal to code. Client ID they are asking you to pass. Read URI. State. What is the state? A text string that you choose. Any text string you can give it. State. So what are the parameters? Response type, client ID, read URI, state. If we give this, they are going to send a response. Response is coming with what? Once you got the code, request for the token. This is the endpoint URL. Then we have grant type equal to authorization code, code equal to my authorization, client ID, client secret. You will send this. Now if you look at this, yesterday's example and today's example. Yesterday's example, we have read URI also. But this, as per this documentation, they don't require read URI. They only require client ID, client secret, and code. If I send this, they're sending response as what? Access token, reference token. Now what is this? Expires in. Right. So before this time, I have to send a request. Actually, we got session expired. Why expired? We didn't mention that timeout. Then revoke. Whatever the connection we give, we want to cancel the connection. You want to log out. If you want to log out, revoke. Client ID, client secret, whatever the token we got, if you send it, the connection will be revoked. Connection is revoked means, what is that? Log out from the system. Automatically, the system will be logged out. Right, this is how we are giving. I hope you are clear. This is the documentation what they give. First, let us understand this documentation and make a request and get access token. The first point is requesting for the access token. So if you want to request for the access token, I want to request for the access token. So let us see this. I'm going to get public string. In the last session, we have seen creating a custom object and accessing. What is the other way of accessing the data? What is the other? I can also go with custom setting. Develop custom setting. Here we have fields. What are the fields we have? Client ID. Client ID. And we have read URI. Now I'm storing the data. This is a custom setting in which I created. So click on manage. If you don't store the data in any one of the object, obviously then I have to go for what? Hard coded values. Then obviously I have to go for hard coded values. Client ID. And secret. This is how we created. Client ID, client secret, username, client ID, client secret, and your related URI. These are the credentials what we have. Now let us write the program. Public. First we are requesting for what? Page reference. Get code or request code. When you are requesting a code, what we require? First, go to the custom setting. The custom setting, how do you get the data? Box equal to get value of. If you want to get all the values, what is the format? Map of. What is the format of custom setting? String box equal to box dot get all. And then if you want to get a particular value, box b equal to which is a map. How do you get it? Get off. You want the value of box. Here, what is the format I have to use? Page reference P. Before we go for page reference, we need to go for what is the URL? Go to the documentation. This is the URL. Then we are making. You can go with the basic, or you can make it simple. Page reference URL equal to URL plus. What are the parameters they are asking you to pass? Response type, code, response type code, and what is the other parameter? Client ID. Client ID equal to, there is a client ID, b dot client ID. What is the b? Custom setting. Then we have client ID, client secret. What is the next one? Read URI. For the read URI, u dot plus ampersand. What is the last parameter they ask you to give? State. Can be any one of these things. So we made a request. This is a URL. In the URL, what are we passing? Is anything new that we created? As per the documentation, whatever the documentation is saying, I just form the string here. What is the documentation? URL, response type equal to code, client ID equal to client ID, read URL equal to read URL plus. Once you made this, then what should I do? Make page This is how we create it. I hope you are clear with this one. So what did I do? Idamma? Or it's a name kada? Name of the custom setting what I have taken. The name of name field box. Object name I give as a box. The field name also I give as a box. Right about. Now let us run this. First let us see whether we are getting the code properly or not. What happened? Command button. Value. Code request code. And what happened? We have box response because the response will come to which page? I give a callback URL. What is callback URL? Box response. When you requested, the response will go to this page. Go to the home page. Have a preview. Request the code. When you request the code, right now I already logged into box.com. That is the reason it's not asking the username password. That it came. Otherwise, it will show you the page. Enter your username password of box.com. When I enter, that says grant access. When you say grant access, what are you getting here? You're getting the code here. Once you got the code, what should I do? Read the code from the URL. So the first step is clear. We made a request to the box.com. Box.com give you a code and read that code. How do you read the code from box.com? Public void request token. If you want to request token, first we need to read the code. How do you read? Fx pages dot current page dot get parameters dot get off. I hope I'm clear with this. I hope I'm clear. Okay. Once you got this, what is the next step that we have? Again, we have to request for the token. If you want to request for the token, what the documentation is giving you? What documentation is saying? Boss, if you want to request for the token, this is the endpoint URL. Grant type is transaction code, client ID, client secret. So these are the 4 parameters I have to give. So let us see. What type of request is this? What type of request is this? Grant type, code. What type of this? Let us see this. Go back to the format. Then I have string URL. Then string body. Body. What are the parameters we have, boss? Grant type. Again, I am repeating. If you understand the documentation, go through the documentation clearly. It is easy for you to make. Already I have done these examples number of times. So I am writing no. You have to check copying the elements here. But if you are looking at this for the first time, you will spend the time in going through the documentation. You have to spend the time in going through the documentation. Grant type, body, go to body plus, what do they give? Client ID, client secret. So we got here client ID equal to B plus body equal to body plus client secret equal to client ID, client secret. Then we are getting the body code. Where is the code? Code which we fetched in the above step. There is some bug I have created. What is the bug? Ampersand is missing. Now let us organize the body once again. We got here body equal to grant type, authorization code, ampersand, client ID equal to client ID, client secret equal to client secret, and code. Now what does it be? Now, am I writing a SQL query now? I am not writing a SQL query, I am directly fetching from the list of two lines. We can make it single line also. List of two lines, we can also get it as single line. But to make it simple, I made it two lines. Okay, as you already know about the map format. So this is how I created a body. Once you created a body, what should I do? Should it be equal to request dot set, then endpoint URL, then set body, set endpoint URL, set method post, set body, URL, post, body. Now I have to send a request. HTTP response equal to v dot send. Now what are the response we are getting? Is equal to response dot get body. So we got the response. Now once you got the response will contain what? The total response is going to contain access token. They get the access token. If you want to get the access token, what should I do? Deserialize. How do you deserialize? System dot JSON parser equal to JSON dot create. I am giving while JP dot next token not equal to null. What I'm going to do? If JP dot get text equal to access token, then we have to get access token. Then what should I do? JP dot. Why am I using JP dot next token? Right now the cursor is at access token, value is in the next token. Equal to JP dot access token. Right. Now there are few things what I have to do now first. What are the few things? First register this URL because like a URL you used, page reference I used. That's the reason it didn't ask me read URL. It's the same thing if I have given it the HTTP method, it should ask me what? Throw error message. Unrecognized URL call account.box.com. Because I gave a page reference, didn't throw any error message. Nobody has observed the point. Did we register this box.com in the remote site setting? And why you didn't get error? Every time we don't register the remote site setting, we are getting an error. But this time we didn't get any error message. Why? Because I didn't make HTTP format, I made a page reference format. Right. Go back here. Security controllers. Next. We also made one more request. What is it? Okay. No request token. What should I do? I can make the request from a single page itself. Instead of taking 2 pages, I can make it a single page. So, request token, access to that. So, go to the home page. Now, what I will do? I'm logging out so that we can see the complete exam. Code. That's with the username password. Authorize. Grant access. That's going to give me code. Using the code, I made a request. Requesting for access token. What is the access token is fetched? We received access. Once the access token is received, we are connected to the system. In the system, what do you want to perform now? Connection is done okay, but what do you want to perform in the system? Now I want to see. Look at the format. I want to connect it. When you want to connect it, all these are operations. What do you want to create? All these are operations. So first let us say, create a folder. I want to create a folder. So when you want to create a folder, what is the format they are giving? Body, name, parent. Do you have any parent? It is an optional. Parent ID is required. If there is no parent, it becomes what? 0. If I don't have a parent, it will become 0. If I want to create a subfolder, give me the ID of the folder. If I want to give a folder, you want to create a subfolder. In which folder you want to create a subfolder? That is ID will be indicated. So what is the documentation has given? Body. It should be a what format of request? What format of request? Post request. This is the URL to which you have to make a request. One text folder is here, right? Similarly, I used to create a folder by logging into box.com. Without logging into the box.com from Salesforce, I want to create a folder in the box.com. Right now, what I done? I logged into the box.com, created a folder. The same action I want to perform from Salesforce. from Salesforce account, I want to click on a button which will create a folder in the box.com. Right, box? This I have done by what? Logging into box.com, click on the folder, enter the folder name I created. Now, if you want to create a subfolder for this, now what is this? You are able to find the ID here. What is the folder ID? 3636776628. In this folder, I want to create a subfolder. What happened? Go to the text folder. The text folder we have. Are you getting my point? Are you clear about this? So what is that parent ID? If you know the ID of the folder, pass that ID. No, I don't want to create a subfolder. I want to create a parent folder. Parent folder will be what? 0. Parent folder ID is going to be what? 0. Right or not? So what the document is saying? This is the ID and what is the request? Post request, name of the folder and a parent. That's what they have given. Name of the folder. Right. Then what the document is saying? Authorization. What is this? Variant access token. What was the access token we got? We have to pass that access token. Right, boss? So let us do this example as a continuation. I hope you got the requirement, right? You got the requirement. So when I have to go for this? After completion of, then I am making here. String URL. String body. They give the format of the body. What is that? Name of the folder is parent ID. Do you know the parent ID? When you are not sure about the parent ID, I can give it as what is the format? Name integration, parent ID, parent ID 0. This is the format what is expected. Did I copy wrong? Yeah, I copied wrong. Okay, this is the format. Now we need to set. Point. Authorization. In the authorization, what is the format they are expecting? Is it a wall space? Now I have to send a request. Then once you got the response, you want to read the response and create an object. We'll do that one more example. First, let us complete it here. API.box.com is also API.box. Right. Let us go back from beginning. Authorize. access token. Now line number 46, column number 36, 46 and 36, 46. Response p dot send request endpoint. Now tell me what the bug I have made. Method is not given here. Set method. What is the method? What is the bug I received? Go back. Again home page. Authorize. Grant access. Access token. Then the record is created. Then go back because I display the data in the page. Refresh the page. What was created again? Integration. Integration access. What is the ID of the folder? This is the ID of the folder. Now same request. If I give here, I hope you got the point. From Salesforce, I made a request to the third party and created a folder there. Go back again. Code. Grant access. Not created. There is issue. So once you get the response, we'll getting the point. Once you get the response, already got it. I think we already got the folder. What is it? 966 subfolder. How did you get the subfolder? I gave parent ID equal to so. Who mentioned this? Documentation. As per the documentation, I opened a create a folder, then we got here. Then, if you want to upload a file, they got here, create a group, operation. Let us see anywhere a file is there. Folder we got. Copy the file, upload a file. If you want to upload a file, what they're passing? Parent ID, ID of the, then it's not required, not required. What about request is this? Parent ID, see name of the file, authorization access token that we can do it. Then attributes, name of the file, folder, name of the file, folder, name of the file, folder, name of the file and folder. Name of the file, come on. In that folder, download this file. In this folder, download this file. In this folder, download this file, right? What is the format here? Upload a file. Is for uploading. Okay. It's to upload a file. So whatever the file you want to upload, pass the ID here. Generally, if you want to upload a file, we cannot pass the file like this. So what I should do? Convert the file in the form of what? Convert the file in the form of what? Blob. Convert the data in the form of what? Blob. Then put the body. Name of the file, blob. Convert the data in the form of blob, then you send the file. Right. Can you make a request? People have followed this. Right. If you want to practice, go to these files. All these are one example. Right. All these are one example. Open the documentation, find out, get the data. Now you want to get the current username. Get this. Send a request to this one. What is the method you are using? Get method. You want to create a new user. Then what they are asking? Required email address of the user. name of the user, then rest of the things are optional parameters. Right? Fine, boss. So take each one is one example. Now it's your choice what you want to practice. We have shown how to integrate with the box.com and how to upload. We have done 2 examples on this. Now all these are different examples. For practice purpose, you can use this. I hope you are clear with this. People have followed. And what is the procedure I followed here? The same like yesterday, but yesterday document was slightly different from today's document. But what is the procedure what we have followed? Our procedure of integration is what? Web server authentication. What is the procedure we have followed? Web server authentication. I hope I am clear. People are clear with this? Clear? Any further queries? Any further queries? I hope I am clear. Clear with this? Okay. Let us go to the next one. We are trying to get the LinkedIn data. I'll try to integrate with LinkedIn, get my data from LinkedIn. So collect the data of the user from LinkedIn. I hope you are clear with this. People are clear about this? What is the format I followed? First request for the code, then using the code request for the access token, then using the access token, I perform. So total how many steps are involved? 3 steps. First step, request the code. Second step, request the token. Third step, perform the action. Let me do the same example, let me do with LinkedIn. I'll try to integrate with LinkedIn. Right. I log in as what? Did I log into LinkedIn or as a developer? As a developer. In the previous one also, box.com, did I log in as a box.com user or a developer? I am logging into the LinkedIn as a developer because I have to create an app. In the box.com, I have to create an app. It's a connected app. Now, who is the service provider? Box.com is the service provider. Who is making a request? Salesforce. From Salesforce, I am making a request to the box.com. And in the box.com, what you are doing? You are making a request to the box.com. And you are making a request to the box.com. Sorry. From Salesforce, you are making a request to the LinkedIn. And whatever the data of you that is available in the LinkedIn, copy the data and use the data in the Salesforce. Okay. This is my request. Now, let me open the documentation first. Open the documentation. Then what is the format we are using? Authenticate using OAuth. Authentication. Step 1, create a LinkedIn application. We have to create a LinkedIn connected app. Once you create a LinkedIn connected app, read a URL. You are going to get a client ID, client secret. If you have a client ID, client secret, you know how to make it. What is the first request? Response type equal to code. So we are requesting for what? Read at URI, state, scope is optional. So client ID, read at URI, state if you send. We are going to get the login. That is going to ask login. What is the login? It is going to give me code. What is the code? Then I have to make. Exchange the authorization code for access token. This is the post method. This is the endpoint URL. Run type equal to authorization code, client ID, client secret, read at URI. Now look at this. Here the read at URI is there. The previous step, read at URI is not there. But here we have. So documentation will change from service to service. When you get a request, then we got access token. Once you got the access token, what do we have? Expired SIN. This. Now, authentication request. Then once you are done with that, then what should I do? request for the data. Once you request for the data, it's going to give you response. So if you want to refresh your access token, refreshing access token, the user is still logged into LinkedIn, the user access code has not expired, then so if your application is currently using OAuth 1, you want to migrate to basically reference token. So this is the format. I hope the similar format of what you have done till now, right? So these people are also using which format of authentication? OAuth 2. OAuth 2 with what format? Web server authentication. Web server means code format. Web server means code format. What the first step you have to do? Create app. My apps. Log into developer. Create an application in the LinkedIn. I need some logo now. Some logos are there. Right, I want to create an app. So what did I do? Create, click on my apps, create. Go to the file. Logo is the issue. So let me take some logo. Right, so we got some logos here. So once you create a logo, what happened? Client ID, then redirect URL. What is the redirect URL? URL of the Salesforce page to which I have to send the code back. I have created the URL. So we have client ID, client secret, redirect URL. Once we got this, we know how to make an integration. So again, what I'm doing here, boss, go to custom settings, create the data in the custom settings, develop. today. Manage you client ID. Right. Now we create it. So tell me what are the methods that we have in the custom setting? What are the methods we have? One of the methods is get off. Other method is why should I get all the values? I am looking for a specific LinkedIn. I know whose data I want to get. I know whose data I want to get. When I want to get a particular value, why should I get all the values? Why should I get all the values? Why do you get all the values? Then what I can do? If I want to get a particular value, then we can say get values of name field. Get values of name field. Get values of name field or get instance of any one will do. Then it will give only particular custom setting value. Particular custom setting value. Only to understand that we are not going to take map anymore. We are going to take particular value. Here I use what? But I am going to get only particular value. Then go back to the next one, LinkedIn. Public. Public. Go to the documentation. What is the endpoint URL? Then I have URL equal to response type code. %. What is the other one? Client ID. What are the custom setting name? Box equal to get values of. What are the values of LinkedIn? Get the values of LinkedIn. It's a case sensitive. Custom setting will be a case sensitive. Cross check once again. Then we are going to give. Right. So here we got URL. Once you got the URL, what I have to go for? Right. This is how we are done. First, let us see whether things are working fine or not. So first, what should I do? Register this with Then I'll go with remote site settings. Then create a home page. LinkedIn example. LinkedIn response for the callback URL. Right, Amma? This is the basic step. What is the first step we have done? Requesting for code. Make a request, try to get the data. Authorize LinkedIn. I accept. What we received here. First step is clear. First step we got a request. Then second step, we want to get the data. Now we want to get the access token. If you want to get the access token, go to the documentation. Then read the data. This is the endpoint URL, this is the post method, grant type, code, react URI, client ID, client secret. Again, so as you observed, as I told you, the major part is understanding the documentation, knowing what parameters has to be passed, how to create a connector. This is the major part. Public void first. Number 10. Then we have body equal to body plus ampersand. What is the next parameter they're asking? So we got here. To get the data, we need to go with now which is the best option? Writing a sample or custom setting? Custom setting. So it is one advantage is avoiding the calls to server side because it is in the cache. We can access will be there. Second one is we are avoiding sample queries. Body equal to client secret. One extra spelling. Okay. Now we made a endpoint URL method. Now if you want to make request, what is the format I have to do? For the format, HTTP p equal to request dot set. Set endpoint, set body, request dot set method. What is the method? Right. Then I want to send the response. Request. Then we are going to say string response dot get body. Then we are going to say system dot JSON dot create result. Then void the same old story. While JP dot next token not equals to null. While JP dot next token not equal to null, then I'm going to check if JP dot what is the value we are expecting. Then I'm taking it JP dot next token. Then this is what you have done. The same old procedure, but URLs are different, parameters are different. But the procedure is the same. The URL is different and parameters are different. Then go back to the response page. In the response page, what should I do? We make the first example, then we'll connect with the trigger. Or connect with the batch specs. Go back to the home page. Submit. Go to the home page. Code. Hello. Submit. LinkedIn response. You're not getting the access token. So if you're not getting the access token, what is the problem here? Come again. We didn't read the code. Yes, you are right. We give a code as a blank one. Apex page dot current page dot get parameters dot get off. Without passing the code, we just made a request. That was a bug. Go back again. Code. Hello. Submit. We got the access. We got the access token. Once you got the access token, what should I do? Request for the data which is available on your profile. You want to request the data which is available in the profile. So if you want to request for the data, what about request is this? Get. Then you are asking about the information, people, API LinkedIn, API line, right? So I'm going to make a request to this. I'm going to make a request to this. So that you get a data of you, your profile data. Whatever the Satish is there, Satish profile data we are going to get. So clear for everyone? Requested a code, then we got a code, requested the access token, we got the access token. Now third step is requesting the data from LinkedIn. Once this is success, then we'll try to make a batch web code. We'll try to connect with the batch webs. HTTPS or HTTP. Slash HTTP only. So let me try to. It's not working, then we'll look at the documentation. I'm just taking the rough structure available there. If it is not working for us, then I'll go through the documentation and see. Zero level report. What is the use of header? Authorization. Then endpoint, whether I have to give first dot set method. Whatever method is this. Then response dot get body. Then did I register this API LinkedIn? So you got endpoint, header, get, that's all. Now what we need to do? Go for this. Register with the remote site setting. Go back to this response page. Now, if you observe this, what you should get? ID, name is Satish, last name is Maida, headline Salesforce CRM, classic consultant. You are able to see the response. The response is coming in the form of what? So, we are able to fetch the data from LinkedIn. Now, what I will do is, this I will apply in terms of batch webs. We already done one or two examples that take us, right? Now, we'll see how to do this invocation from a batch webs. This is how we got. Person is the root. All these are keys. So I want to take this URL is available, right? This is URL. So URL, your profile URL, profile, LinkedIn ID and LinkedIn URL. This data I want to get and store it to. This data I want to get and I want to store it to account object. Now I want to contact. In a contact object, for every contact, make a request to third party, LinkedIn, find out the details about the contact, get the details and upload it. Get the details and upload it. Based on your name, get the contact ID, based on the contact ID, get your details and upload to the contact. So this should be some like batch requests I want to use. Context is batch requests. So how to call this request from the batch requests? I hope you have understood the format of request, right? The way I made a request is clear for everyone, right? What is the format of authentication? Web server. First we got an access token. By sending that access token, we got the response. Now here the request is, look at the next point. Here the point here is how to make a request from batch requests. How to make a web service call from batch requests. Whenever you want to call a web service call from batch requests, whenever you want to make a request from batch requests, look at the format. We have database dot allow columns. If anybody want to make a web service call to third party system from batch requests, to third party system, then they have to implement an interface called database.allow columns. What is the database.allows? This is the interface what you have to make it. Are you getting? Now let us make a request. So should I go for a LinkedIn or should I go for any third party system? Did we see the currency conversion format? You have done the example of currency conversion? You have done? Yes or no? In example, you trace from the part. You trace it. Okay. Now I'll do one thing. I'll make a batch request. From batch request, I'll try to make a web service called third party. Now in the batch request, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have opportunity. I have a list of opportunity. When I go for a list of opportunity, the price in the opportunity is defined as what? I hope this is clear till now. Authentication process is clear for everyone, right? Now I'm going to the next one. The same web service we are directly making from a class. Now I don't want to make from a class. I want to make this request from a batch request, or let us say schedule events in one. Now opportunity. Now I created an opportunity. Now the price is represented in the form of what? Dollars. Now every day on nightly basis, batch requests will run. Where batch requests will make a web service call to third party system, find out $1 equal to how many rupees. $1 equal to how many rupees, and update the currency, whatever the dollar amount is there, that need to be converted into rupees and display. Every day on nightly basis, or else every day, start of the day, end of the day. Okay, every day in the morning at 1 a.m. or 8 a.m. the batch service will run and find out the dollar rate. Convert starting dollar rate, and again make a request to the third party system. At the end of the day, get the end rate. So starting price, ending price. Today, what is the starting price? Today, what is the ending price? Are you getting my point? So I'm going to every day on a nightly basis we are going to maintain the data. What is the data? Was today, what is the starting price? What is the ending price? Starting price, ending price. So I have to maintain the data. I have to maintain the data. Are you getting my point here? Are you getting my point? So I want to maintain the start price and end price. I want to maintain the start price and end price. Is that was clear? And this should be updated for what? This should be updated for what? This should be updated for every opportunity. So I'm just bringing an opportunity so that we have book of records. Right. To achieve this, what I'm doing here, setup, customize, opportunities, fields, new custom field, number, INR price, so this is the field what I have. Now let me create a web service call. So you need to understand, you want to make a web service call. To whom you want to make a web service call? Third party system. So I'm going with some third party system which will give me conversion rates. $1 equal how many rupees? Conversion rates is going to give me. So let me log into this account to get the access token. Now they gave me this access token what I got. Using this access token I am going to make a request. What type of request is this? If you are passing the parameters in the URL, what type of request is this? It is in the form of, if you are passing the parameters in the URL, what type of request is this? It is a GET request. Let me make a batch fix. How do you define the batch fix? Global class batch comma why I am using this? If you don't use this, you cannot call a web services from BatchFX. If you want to call a BatchFX, if you want to call a web services from BatchFX, what is the interface? What is the interface? Database dot hello column. Get query located. Select ID, INR price, amount from I'll make it short. Where created it equal to today. Get all the opportunities which are created today. Then I'm going with global void batchful context list of Then I have to make HTTP request. How do you make HTTP request? URL. Who has given this URL? Documentation. I went to the documentation of the organization where we have I am giving a hard-coded value is not a good practice. Again, what is it? Go to the custom setting or something else. You can use the format. You can go to the custom setting and access it. I give hard-coded value, but it's not a good practice. Put them in a custom setting or a custom house or a custom label and use it. I hope you got my point. Don't hard-code the value. Never hard-code the value. Never hard-code the value. Currencies, into which currency you want to convert? I want to convert into INR. What is the currency format of your company? It's in the form of dollar. Then format equal to 1. What is this format equal to 1? Get documentation. According to the request, if you want a JSON format, it will use format equal to 1. This is URL. String URL, question mark, access token, access key, ampersand, currency, source, format. Then you want to make a request, HTTP equal to endpoint request dot set method. Request dot set method set URL. Anything else we have to set? Anything we need to do? Nothing else. Response equal to request. And what I'm getting here? String get the body. Once you got the response, what do you want to do with the response? I'll do it. Local word. Batchable context. So you want to send an email saying that boss the conversion is completed. Write the email program, single email message of the finished method. Now the response is coming in the form of what? Response is coming in the form of what? Response is coming in the form of JSON. Response is coming in the form of JSON. Is the currency what? INR I want. Now we are getting the response. What is the response? USD INR. I require USD INR. $1 equal how many rupees? So I have to parse it. How do you parse it? While just I need to give system dot JSON. In the LinkedIn example, you got XML. We didn't parse it. If you want to use that response, you need to parse it and use it. The LinkedIn example, I just showed the XML response. I have not parsed it. Did parse it. Then while then AP dot text. Then AP dot so what is the value that we need to get? I need to take some value here. Decimal price. Now I have to give price equal to AP dot get as decimal. Parse the data, I want to take the value. Till now we are taking the string value. but I want to read the value as what? Decimal. So JP dot get decimal value. Then once you got the decimal value, we know $1 equal to how many rupees? Once you know $1 equal to how many rupees? For take one by one opportunity. Opti dot INR price equal to OP dot MOD is in dollars. It is in dollars. Dollars into number of rupees. Then we are trying to update. I hope you are clear with this. First I found out right now $1 equal to how many rupees? Right now $1 equal to how many rupees I have found out. Once I found out $1 equal to how many rupees, then what I have done? Then I converted all the opportunities accordingly, updated them. Now first we'll try out without writing database.elo columns. Without writing this, what will happen? Let me give it. Shall I do it from the debug console? People are, you know how to call the batch mix, right? Sure. How to execute it? Database dot execute batch opti comma I give size equal to 10. When you execute, then go to the batch jobs and find out first problem. Nobody has spoken me about two issues are there. First problem, we never registered this endpoint URL. We never registered this endpoint URL. Go back, register this. Okay, now go back to the batch jobs and find out the issue. Jobs, Apex jobs. Too many callouts. So the web service call didn't go. Too many callouts, one. One callout is also high. Why one callout is also high? Because you have not implemented database dot. So if you don't implement, you will get too many callouts exception. You are going to get what exception? Too many callouts exception. Make it execute. When execute it, again go back and see. Batch is completed. The previously got error, but now the batch is. Go back to the opportunity. Open the opportunity. What is the price we give? 8,000. Now it is displayed as 5,12,240. Right, boss? Okay. So how do you call a web service from the batchbox? If you want to call a web services from the batchbox, the web batchbox has to implement database.los callout. It has to implement an interface called database.los callout. So can I call a web services call from batchbox? Yes, by implementing database.lo callouts. Are you get the same story? I'll try to repeat the same story in the schedule effects. The same story I'll try to implement in the schedule effects. You are intelligent, you will understand. Other people should not understand, right? I'm running separate program. Okay. So, write me a class implements schedulable public void then what should I do? Same program, copy pasting it, but prior to that I'm going to write one sample code here. The same program, but where did I write the batchbox? Where did I write the web service call? Within the schedule box. I wrote the web service call within the schedule effects. Now let us run this. How do you run this? What is the time? Just here. Go back and see. Now the bug here is there's one bug with this. The time zone of mine is not okay. First let us go and see the scheduled jobs. Job is scheduled. Time zone is not matching. The user time zone and my system time zone both are not same. Go back here. Change the user time zone. So always the jobs will be scheduled as per the user who filed it. Go back again. We need to wait for a minute to see status of this. Twenty-seven 8 2017, 11:54. So let us wait for a minute to see. Will the schedule effects calls go from from the schedule effects can we make a web service calls or not? Can we make a web service call from the schedule effects or not? If we schedule a job exactly 11:54, the job is going to run. Will it run exactly 11:54? May or may not. Why may or may not? Why may or may not? Because any asynchronous operations are going to run from all the asynchronous operations are going to run from all the asynchronous operations are going to run from queue. All the jobs are added to the queue. Now what? Failed to execute the scheduled jobs, job ID. Why? Call out from schedule effects is not supported. So from schedule effects we cannot make a web service call. Then what is the solution? What is the solution? Right. We have to use a future method or we have to use a BASIX and call that. We have to use a future method or we have to use a BASIX and call. I told you advantage of future method. Invoking a web service call from the schedule effects, invoking the web services from the triggers. So if you want to call this, what is the solution that I have to make it? What solution? Now what is the bug? If any job is pending, you cannot modify the jobs. If any job is in active state, we cannot modify the jobs. If any job is in active state, we cannot modify it. Then let me run it again. 56 now how to make. Go back and check. 8. 57. Now I invoked. I defined the web service in the future. Future method I call in the schedule effects. So the 2 points we have seen out of these web services. One, we cannot make a web service call directly from the trigger. Trigger does not support synchronous web service. Schedule effects does not support synchronous web service. Synchronous web services are not supported by triggers and schedule effects. Synchronous web services are not supported by schedule effects and now what is the bug here? That's right. So it's not the bug about the web service, it's the bug about why at the data feature? Whenever you want to call web services from the feature method, you have to give call out equal to. Right. So what should I do now? Can I modify the code? It throws error message. Why it throws error message? Any job is in pending state. That cannot be modified. Go back to the code. Then run the code again. So I have to make it as 58 now. Go back and see. So I hope you have seen all type of bugs that can be encountered while writing a batch effects. Web service call with the batch effects, the bugs what we encounter. While writing the schedule effects, what are the bugs we encounter? First, without any asynchronous operation, I defined a web service call from the schedule effects that has thrown error message. What is the error message? Callouts are not supported. Second, again we made a web service call. What happened again? Completed, right? Completed. So issue was resolved. So first one is when you are calling a schedule effects, within the schedule effects you cannot call a web service call. If you call a web service call, it will fail. First problem. Second problem, you are supposed to call a web service within a batch effects and call within the schedule effects. Define a batch effects, call the batch effects within a schedule effects. That will also will do. Third one, if you are trying to call using a future method should have at the rate of future call out equal to true. These are the probable bugs we may encounter while defining the web service calls from the schedule effects. In the batch effects, database.allows call out. Database.allows call out. I hope you are clear. Clear for everyone? Any further queries from your end? Any further queries? So what are the common problems that we are getting when you are writing a web service call? What are the common problems you are getting? Right. Remote site setting is one. Then undefined methods or authentication failure. Okay, undefined or authentication failure. Right. These are the common issues what we are getting. I hope you are clear. People are clear with this. Any further queries from your end? I hope you have followed this. Right. So let me make one more format of authentication. We'll also go with one more third-party format of authentication. So let's take some break and come back. We'll continue. I'll give one more format of authentication. Go back. I'll try to go with the next format as a client credential. Authentication format is client credential. Using the client credential format, we want to authenticate. So to authenticate your system with I want to authenticate myself with the client credential format. So if you want to authenticate with the client credential format, let us see this. So first let me go to the Facebook. I want to integrate my application with the Facebook. Now who is your provider? Facebook is your provider. So what type of authentication we are going to use? O-authentication. In the O-authentication, what format of authentication I am going to use? Client credential. What is the format of authentication? Client credential. So first, let us see how to create it. If the Facebook is the service provider, where should I create a connected app? Connected app should be created where? On the Facebook. Connected app should be created on Facebook. So go to Facebook, developer.facebook.com. applications. But let me delete the existing application what I have. Fine. So go to the, I want to create my own application. Let me delete existing application. Now, you'll be finding the logo here, create app. Create new app. I'm trying to create a new application in the Facebook connected app. What was this box? W. Is 6 or C? Right. So we created an application. We got application ID. We created a new application. We got application ID. Then go to dashboard. Once you create an application, go to dashboard. You are able to see application ID, application secret. So this application ID, application secret are nothing but client ID, client secret. Then go to settings. Then go to settings. In the settings, you are finding here add platform. Go to website URL. Salesforce.com/fx/ sales. What is the category? Dedication. So I went to settings, added the URL. What did I add? Add platform, website. Then I added what? Salesforce URL. Right, boss? Then go to app review, activate the app. Your application is activated. Now your application is live and you got a application ID, application secret. Now connected app is done. Now how do you integrate with the? How do you integrate with this? How do you integrate? If you want to integrate with the Facebook, we should see using Graph API. If you want to authenticate, so if you want to authenticate, look at the URLs. All these are APIs. Okay, let me make it short. Let me go to Facebook client credentials. Client credentials graph. Right. So let us see the documentation. So you want to access. You are requesting an access token by using what? By using client credential format. So if you want to go with the client credential format, they're saying here. What is that? Go on access token, client ID, client secret, grant type equal to client. If you get if you make a get request, by using what? Client ID, client secret, grant type. This is the format in which you have to make a request to the Facebook. Now, what type of grant type is this? Client credentials. What are the two values that we are passing? Client ID, client secret. No username, no password, no code format. Only client ID, client secret you are giving. You are getting the permission set. Now, let us go to this. To get this information, we got the same one. What is that? Is an endpoint URL. What did I use? Client ID, client secret, grant type equal to. Now let us see this example. I'm trying to connect with this new section expired. Again, open it. So again, I'm mentioning The more is based on the documentation. You need to spend more time on documentation format to understand what is the documentation. What you need to pass, what type of authentication they are following, what credentials you have to pass, how to get those credentials. You don't have client ID, client secret. But in the Facebook, you don't have client ID, client secret. Then in place of client ID, what should I pass? In place of client secret, what should I pass? So then I have to go through documentation. When I go to the documentation, that word, in place of client ID, pass the application ID. In place of client secret, pass the application secret. Okay. Go back to this. So again, if you want to use this, what should I do, boss? Go to my custom setting. You want to give hard-coded values or you want to give? If you want to go with the hard-coded values, you can directly go with giving the values. No, you don't want to go with the hard-coded values. Go to custom settings, box.com, manage. The Facebook we got client ID, client secret. Client ID. Client ID, client secret report. Go back to this client ID, client secret. Now I need to go with the public string access token. Public string access token. We are requesting for a client ID. Public void what above request is that? What above request is this? The get request. The get request. Right. Then what are the parameters you have to pass? URL equal to URL plus. Go to the documentation. Client ID. You need to get the access. How do you get the access? Box B equal to get values of. I'm not using map because already by this time you know how to get a particular value. Then B dot ampersand. What is the second parameter they're asking you to pass? Client secret. Plus ampersand. What is the third format they give? So we got here client ID, client secret, grant type. This is the URL. What type of request is this? Get request. You're passing the parameters in the URL. So obviously it's going to be what? Get request. That's not set method. Dot set endpoint. First dot endpoint and method. Now we want to send a response. Response. Hold. We get the response send. When you send the request, we are going to get a response. Now in the response, we are going to get a access token. It's obvious that response will have access. Because what type of authentication is this? Authentication. What authentication is going to give? What authentication is going to give? It's going to give you access token. Once you got the access token, request for the access token, get the data. Then how do you get the access token now? Not reset. While JP dot token not equal to null. Then what I'm getting here? If JP dot JP dot get text access token. So this is a common story, right? We are doing the same example from long time. But what is the difference? What we got is client ID, client secret. So the authentication format has changed. Previously we used a code format, web server, okay, username, password, grant type, okay, refresh token. But here we are going with the client credential, the other format of authentication. So here, what is the first thing that I have to do? Go to remote site settings. Go to the remote site settings. Where is that remote site? Identify, integrate with Facebook. Right. We are done with this. Now let us go to the home page of the Facebook. We require any callback URL here? Not necessary. Why? Because the providers are not requesting any callback URL. Are you ready? What did I get here? Access token. Now, what is the bug we got? Right. Now I didn't move the cursor to the next step. The cursor is right now on the access token, but I didn't move the cursor to the next line. Go back. We got the access token, right, boss? So we are connected with the Facebook. Once you are connected with Facebook, what do you want to get? You are connected with the Facebook. What do you want to get? You want to request your data. What data you want to request? I want to request my data. If I give the profile ID, how to get the data about a profile ID? Now, using this Facebook, Salesforce to Facebook, access token is received. That means both the systems are connected. When both the systems are connected, what Salesforce wants from a Salesforce? What the Salesforce wants from a Facebook? Salesforce connected to the Facebook. Connection is success. Now, what are you looking for? Was Salesforce, you are connected to me. What you want from me? Now, I want what? Okay. Get details based on Facebook API. Based on Facebook API based on profile. If I give my profile ID, return the details about my profile. Whatever the profile ID I have given, based on the profile, give me the details. So what they are asking? Facebook/user ID. If you pass your user ID, what is it? graph.facebook.com. If you are passing version 2 user ID, if you pass, they are going to give you what? They are going to give your date of birth, your age, your notes, all this data we are going to give it. Right, boss? What they say, boss? Send your profile ID, If you send your profile ID, I'm going to give. Now, if you send your user ID followed by videos, the videos what you uploaded. If you send user ID followed by live videos, what you are watching, your photos, your albums, all these are what. I'll do one example. If you want to practice, take one by one video link, one by one URL, start practicing. I'll do one example for you. The rest you can do it. So, are you getting my point? Our intention is connect to the third party, go through the documentation, get a specific information what you want. Right now, I want the information about the person who logged into the Facebook. Right. Now, in this case, look at the format. What is the URL we got? The same URL, facebook.com, v2.1. Now, we told user ID. How do you get the user ID? How do you get the user ID? No, I'm not expert in Facebook. So, we'll use some tool to get the ID. Now, find my Facebook ID. So, I have, this is my Facebook. Let me copy my URL. They give me my ID, this ID. So I copied this ID. I'm going to paste it here. Right? Right, boss? The same documentation I'm using, right? What is the documentation they told? You can request documentation. graph.facebook.com. Then next they told version 2.10. Then followed by your user ID. Then profile ID what I got. I hope you are clear. Right? What about request is this? Get request. Now, if you followed, I can just copy these 3 links. If you are not followed, I'll write the code. If you followed, I'll just use that. Void get. Now, what is the code I have done? So, look at this. HTTP request is the endpoint URL. We got the endpoint URL. Based on the documentation, we got the endpoint URL. What type of method is this? Get. Then, if you want to authenticate, whatever the access token we got in the first step, that I have to pass. If you want to authenticate, whatever the data we got in the first step, that I have to pass here. If you pass, you are going to get the response. How do you get the response? No. Prior to this, look at the graph.facebook. It is also graph.facebook. Okay, no issue. Now I'll call here. Alright. So what I'm doing was, first we'll see what is the response we're getting. Then we'll check out. Do you need to serialize in the JSON format or XML format? Because we didn't go through the documentation. I just took some random file documentation I verified, I got the data. So I'm not sure whether the XML format or JSON format. So let me write it first. Okay. What is the format of response? What is the data we got? Name equal to Satish Mehla, ID equal to source. Name equal to Satish Mehla, ID equal to source. Right? So based on my profile ID, I'm getting. If I give my user ID, if I find out where is my user ID, you need to go to the Facebook. Okay, documents and find out how to find the user ID. If you give user ID, all the details about the user will come. Right? Are you getting my point here? Are you getting? We have made a response, we got a response. What is the response we got? Name and correspond. I hope you are clear with this. Clear for everyone? Now what we need to do? Everyone is clear about this. Right. Now, somebody is asking me your question. How to create an account based on the response. So again, I have to go with what? System dot JSON concept. So what is the data that is available? Name and ID. Name and ID. So I'll do here. While jp dot next token not equal to null, if text. What is the data we received here? Name and ID. What should I do? jp dot next token hc dot name equal to similarly ID. Now, if you want to take multiple attributes, this format is not suggestible. Then what format is suggestible? Parameter class is suggestible. JSON dot deserialize. If you want to take one or two elements, it's okay. But if you want to take one or two elements, it's okay. But if you want to take a particular format, it's a small letter, right? Name, ID, you want to use multiple. So what I can use? JSON dot deserialize. JSON dot deserialize. I'm giving is dot ID. So void I'm giving page reference. But what is that? Page reference. Page reference RENs. Duplicate variable P. Because for HTTP P I gave page reference. Let's go back to this. Not saved. Now what is the problem here? What is the problem here? Account is created, but the issue is from here. Because it's not a separate method, we are calling within the, this method is called within the other method, so we had issue there. This method is called within this, because I took account ACC, it's count for everyone. So I'm giving ACC dot. You can go back. Okay. Right, boss. So once you made a request, you got a response. What you want to do with your response is your choice. You want to get an account or a contact, or you want to update, or you want to delete, your choice. Right, boss? So I hope all the four formats of authentications are clear, but majorly we are going to use three. What are the three? Fourth one is for interview check. Reference token only for the sake of interview. Because they are going to obviously ask what is the reference token, why you use it. Okay. But practically what we are going to use? Web server authentication flow and username password flow, client credentials. When you say client credentials, only client ID, client secret. You two application want to connect person to person, only one person want to connect. Application to application want to connect. So we go for what? Client credentials. Client ID, client secret is sufficient. So are you clear about this? Everyone has followed this. In the similar format I will do, I will just give. I don't want to kill your time now. I just give one rough structure using which you can practice. I'll give one rough structure with the client credentials. Let us say, tell me one payment gateway. PayPal. So create a test account. This is a complete one. I am not giving any documentation. Go through the documentation. It is also client credentials. See how to create a connected app in the PayPal. See how to create a connected app in the PayPal and get your data. You go through the documentation, you are going to get how to create my app and get credentials. Right. Want to go with this? Then you are going to get your application ID, application secret, test credentials. Let us say API documentations. So just create an access token. Once you create an access token, we'll be able to make a connection to this. You'll be able to make a flow to this. You can do one or two examples with this. Right. So it is a complete client credential format. What is the format of authentication? Client credential format. What is the format of authentication? Client credentials. When you go for a client credentials, first you need to create a dummy account with this. They'll get a sandbox. Once you got a sandbox, then make a access token. How do you get an access token? By using what? Client credentials. So here is that API reference. So what you are passing here? Client ID. There are only two parameters you are passing. Client ID, client secret. You're going to pass client ID, client secret. If you pass client ID, client secret, you're going to get what? You're going to get what? Access token. Once you got the access token, then what is the type? Grant type. We go to look at the format. So we got a token, accept application JSON, client ID, grant type. Client ID, grant type. When you get this, yeah, you spend the time. Go through the documentation, spend the time, get the access token, make one payment example. Okay. Right, boss? This you can try from end to end. End to end. Just go through the documentation. I already told you it's a client credential format. The documentation is basically working on client credential, but here you need to understand. You need to understand what format, how to create